Right, I've already done one negative list. I need one more, then I can go back to some positive stuff. Games I hate is too much. I've already done things I hate in gaming, so... this was pretty popular. My overrated games. Yeah, why not give this one a bit of an update? I mean, people have, matured a bit more since that last one. What's the worst that can happen? Hey guys, welcome to another Broken Meeple Top 10, and yeah, just casual clothes today, although at least maybe my hair is a little bit more style today. I'm not shaving it off, guys, okay? I'm not shaving it off. I have a video blog to run. You do not want to see me go toe-to-toe with my scalp with a razor, because trust me, there probably won't be any more content for a while if that was the case. But, otherwise, all things pretty good. So, this one is, yes, it's a negative top 10 list. I said I was going to do a couple of them just to, have a fun time with them, and hopefully you guys enjoyed my previous one. The view count seems like you did, and certainly the likes to dislikes are actually pretty positive on that one, so, maybe negative lists aren't necessarily a bad thing, but this one was one I did all the way back in December 2017, and it was my third most popular video on this channel to date. It has been eclipsed by the solo games and the top 10 simple games with lots of depth. But this one at the time was just skyrocketing in views. However, the likes to dislikes by now are a bit less favourable than some of my other videos, but then that's kind of to be expected, because the second you talk bad about any kind of game, the fanboys of said game will... I'd like to think that maybe we've got to a point that, people are a bit more respectful of other people's opinions, even if they don't necessarily agree with them.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably wishful thinking, but I wanted to do it again at some point, because it's a little outdated back then, because things that were overrated then might not necessarily be overrated now. So how have I kind of put together this list? Well, this is not just 10 games I hate. I certainly don't like these, I don't know. I would say I don't like any of these 10 games, although one of them I kind of warmed up on, and one of them you could get me to play, but, it's more that at the time of doing this video, as I look around Board Game Geek Awards, as I look at other awards, Lifestyle Awards, as I look around at Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and see what games are being played and talked about a lot, as well as partially checking their ranking on Board Game Geek, although that doesn't factor into it too much, I hope, at least with some of these, because I don't really trust the BGG rating system anyway, nor its ranking system, and a game that could be rated Twilight Imperium 4, for example, is not on my list, but it's number 6, I think, on the BGG top 10. I can't remember the last time I ever saw anybody put up a photo of Twilight Imperium 4. It's a niche group of people that are really, really loving that game, so I can't really call it overrated, because just because the broken system put it at number 6 doesn't mean it's the most talked about game ever. But these 10, recently I'm seeing these ones get quite a lot of buzz for various reasons, and in my humble, subjective opinion, I disagree with the popularity of these games, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to give you my reasons, probably go off on a rant or two at some point, and it'll be interesting, hopefully, for you guys to, just get my views on it, whether you agree or not. I'm sure most of you will disagree with my choices on here. That's kind of the way it is, but I'm just hoping you'll at least go, oh well, it's cool to hear the opinion, even if it's not one I necessarily agree with. But will my list have changed much from 2017? That you'll have to wait and see. So I'll do some honourable mentions at the end. I will do a Patreon choice as well. But no, there's no Patreon choice on this one, because this one I kind of did as a surprise. Some people got the gist that I was doing this, maybe if they paid attention on tweets and that, but this one was one that I wanted to just kind of... surprise, I'm doing this one, because, I did one for the previous list, I just haven't done one for this. So, let's get on with it. Time to... into the jaws of death. Number 10 is a darling by so many people, and there's a designer there called Stefan Feld, and Stefan Feld likes to make the driest of games remotely imaginable. Pretty much every single one of these games you look at doesn't have even the slightest little squidging of theme. I mean, there is nothing in that cake pipe thing, of icing left. There is none in there. You're squeezing it so hard to try and get blood out of this thing, and you might get a little drop of theme, but nah, it's not his style. Problem is, that doesn't sit well with me, because I like my Euro games to have theme whenever possible. But this one, always talked about. People will always put this as their favourite Feld ever. It's in the top 10 of BGG, I think. It's certainly around that point. And I just don't get the love for the castles of Burgundy. This is just maybe it's the fact that it's simplistic and approachable. Maybe that's the thing, because it is probably one of the easier Feld games to get into. But it's super dry. I mean, you just... Oh, well, here's a few dice. I've got my colour map. I'll take a token and put this 6 here, and then I'll get points at the end, and I suppose I'll take that token. That token looks pretty nice as well. Well, there's another token, and maybe a dice on yellow. It's just, nothing in it feels thematic. I mean, the setting's boring anyway. You're just building a castle. But it just doesn't feel fun. And the design choices in some of it, of why it's super dry. I mean, I laugh at the fact that the board, whoever designed the board, couldn't even get 100 spaces around the outside properly, because when it gets to the 90 plus bit, the scoreboard kind of goes... Is that what? It's like Pac-Man going off on a weird sort of stance bit at the end. It's like, could you not measure this out before you design the board? But that's not like a big deal. I just like taking a mick out of that. But nah, it's at number 10 because I can sort of see why people go for it. But I still think like putting this anywhere near the top 10 of BGG is just madness. For something this bone dry. It's an old game, it feels dated. Nothing about it feels particularly unique. Certainly it's been eclipsed by a lot of other games that do similar dice placement mechanics. And I don't mind the dice placement mechanic itself. It's just this one is just some dice tokens. You could. I mean, the fact that they turned this into a roll and write and it barely feels any different is, kind of testament to that. But yeah, this one isn't one that I'm necessarily angry about. I just really don't get the love for this one. And I mean, I don't particularly like any Stefan Feld game. With the exception, I will play Amerigo. Amerigo was the one that I got into. And that was only because I liked the Cube Tower. I thought that was pretty cool. But that was more of a gimmick than anything else. But all the other ones, I mean, Bruges, the Horrible Aquasphere one, the god-awful looking Carpe Diem, whatever it's called at the moment. I mean, I've never seen a game look more visually bland and ugly in my life. Probably before Ethnos, actually. But still, it's like, oh my god, that one. And, Forum, Trajanum, I don't even know what that even was about. Trajan, don't like that one. I mean, they're basically a collection of mini-games shoved into one. But most people will talk about the Burgundy, which is why it makes my number 10. My number 9, oh god, yes. I mean, this one, I do see it talked about reasonably often. I see it rated quite highly by a bunch of Eurogamers who do the dice placement, but I also hear it talked about a lot with some friends of mine because they adore this game. And naturally, I think most of you watching it probably adore this game, which is fine. But as soon as the game is called something after an Italian or Latin phrase, that already makes me feel a bit, oh god, this is going to be like a boring theme or dodgy setting. It's going to be a beige Euro, isn't it? Or something like that. This one isn't so much a beige Euro, it's just a horribly punishing, boring, tedious Euro. So I do not get the love for this one. This one, I just played it and thought, okay, so literally there's 2 good spaces to put my dice, otherwise all my stuff's gimped. And there's 4 colours to go for, one of which is pretty much unworkable, the yellows or whatever they are, and the green is probably the best thing to do. The blue's pretty nice, and the purple everybody just gets a bit of anyway. But, stop calling your games by stupid names. Lorenzo in Magnifico. Sorry, there's nothing Magnifico about this game. It's just, it is boring already, and I thought it had potential. I thought, okay, so you got this 4 columns of cards. This would be cool. With different abilities, this might be cool. Until the core mechanic of the game is problematic. I mean, forget the setting. The setting's bland as all get out. There's no theme in this. Oh, look, there's 4 towers, and oh look, there's a church track. Again, this is going back to what I said on the previous top 10 list, where it's like everything's all got to be about the church. It's like, seriously, can we not pick a more interesting theme for these old medieval style Euros? But it's just, you've got barely anywhere to put the dice, and the places that you can do are so restrictive and limited that literally, if you don't get that spot, your stuff's gimped. All your stuff is like, oh, you can do action, but it's at -3 value. And it's like, oh, fine, punch me in the face because I just happened to not go first this round. And then the colours themselves, blue's fine. Purple is kind of what everybody gets a little bit of because that's special points. Green's amazing. I mean, I never have a problem with green. Yellow is so hard to get working. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but the stars have to align for you to get the yellow bit to work because it's so intensive as to what you need. And not to mention, it requires you to get the perfect dice spaces. But it just feels unnecessarily punishing. You know, like you want to do something and it doesn't let you. You know, you feel I could do this cool, fun combo if I just have a dice that, oh, I can't. And it just constantly punches you in the stomach, you know, to say, stop trying to have your own game. Stop trying to have fun. You know, you must do this. It takes a long time. It's not exactly a short game. Analysis paralysis can really hurt this one when I've seen it with some people. And at the end of the day, you're just grabbing a bunch of cards and leveling up a church track. Yay! I mean, I don't know. This one gets talked about quite a lot with fans of this designer, and you know, I'm not sure if it's the only time we'll see him on this list. I'd have to double check. I think he might have done one other, but can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, I don't get the love for this one. Lorenzo Ni Magnifico, yeah, not. And number 8 is going to infuriate a lot of people. It's going to infuriate so many. But there are some people I know who don't like this either. But when I did my solo games list, you know, I did a whole list of all these solo games, like tons that we could do. Oh, right, let's have a go with this. And the one game that I acknowledged in my video, I gave it acknowledgement, even though I said I didn't like it, is the #1 voted solo game by pretty much all the solo gamers, because a lot of them will be like interested in more Euro mechanics rather than a thematic adventure game. I'm sorry, but it's not worth its position in the top 100, like top 20 or whatever the game is. And if I want a thematic like adventure game, I have plenty more opportunities to use for getting said, you know, Mansions of Madness, Lord of the Rings down there. I have more ways to do it than Mage friggin' Knight. Mage Knight is not like the thematic immersive adventure game that you want it to be. It's a bunch of over-the-top mechanics shoved together, including like a random little deck buildy bit on the side. I mean, some people have argued it's hand management, but then if that's hand management, how does it work with other games? I don't know. You could argue this for ages, but you know, it's got this mechanic and then this mechanic and then this mechanic. It's like 3 hours plus to play this ridiculously long game, and then even when you're playing it, it doesn't feel as thematic as it could be. I feel like I'm playing a Euro puzzle rather than a game. And you know, there are other like adventure games that have fallen victim to this problem as well, where the theme is kind of dragged back a little bit in favor of more Euro mechanics. And Vlaada Chvátil kind of has this style with his games. You know, the theme has to be abstracted a lot in his games in order to make way for the mechanics. Now, people do love this game. Fair enough if you love it, not the problem. But I just personally have never got on with this. I've tried it multiplayer, I've tried it solo, and I just find myself bored. I mean, I'm trying to remember what I did in my first solo game. As for me, the theme is so dry, I can barely remember it. But I remember like aimlessly wandering around a grassland area. I came across a village, bought some stuff, came across a cave, found a dragon. It was way above my level, killed me instantly. Cards got shuffled, found a castle wall, which I think was meant to be the objective, get into a castle or something. Wouldn't let me in, didn't know where I was supposed to go, so I just wander a bit more aimlessly over this way, and then eventually died. It's like, I couldn't really just get into it. I didn't feel like I was caring about anything of the story or anything. It felt like this is a game where I'm playing the mechanics, and I don't like the mechanics in it. It's not worth the investment of cost, time, fiddly rulebook. I mean, the rulebook in it is pretty dire as well, so I was trying to understand half of it. That didn't help. But everybody is loving on this one for their like favorite solo game. And it's just, I gave you a whole list of solo games. You know, were none of them better than Mage Knight? You know, Mansions of Madness, Lord of the Rings. I'd even go down to, Tainted Grail. I'd still rather play any of those three than Mage Knight any day, especially if I want a really thematic, cool adventure game experience. But I'd probably rather play Descent 2 Journeys in the Dark with the solo app mode before I start playing Mage Knight if I want like a fantasy adventure game. But as I say, a lot of solo gamers love it and they talk about it often, hence it has to make my 8th overrated game. My number 7, I think this was quite high up on the list before, but I recently said I warmed up to this game, and I kind of have. I will play it, but I am now, after a few recent games, only really willing to play it in very specific scenarios. Up to 3 players with a specific expansion. Then you'll probably get me to play it. But I'm just constantly seeing, like, from recent games, dang, some of those flaws that I had before, they are just starting to irk me again. Terraforming Mars is still a bit overrated for me. It's okay. The game is okay, but it's got... First of all, I don't want to play it with more than 3 players. I'm sorry, it's just way too long. And even with 3 players, it's too long. I mean, this is a drafting game that should be 90 minutes. Tops. Ideally 60, and yet it's like a 2.5 hour to 3 hour game, regardless of which platform you play it on. The analysis paralysis it causes as you're waiting for your turn to come back round it's like, for God's sake, it's just 2 actions. Just decide what you're going to do before it's your turn and get on with it. Oh, right, finally, you added a microbe to a card. What, that took you 5 minutes to think of? And then the problem is, really big problem I'm having, and Prelude, the expansion. You need that because you need to speed up those first 2 generations that are just so pointless at the time. But the problem I'm having, particularly with the base set cards, the balance is all over the shop. There are some cards in there which are just frankly dire, and there are others which are just stupidly powerful and very swingy. They usually are the ones where it says gain 1 of this for every 1 of this in play, particularly the ones that are keyed off cities. Those ones are just ridiculous. And we had a award at the end for the big banker, and I couldn't win it. Somebody else had done it because they paid like 2 or 3 cards that basically said, oh, I sacrifice a tiny little bit of power. Oh, I get 5 income every turn. And it's like somewhat powerful. But then I was going to get 2nd place. And the only reason I didn't was because somebody managed to find a single card in their draft. So their first hand, drafting does not eliminate luck mitigation, people. And it basically said gain like 1 for every city in play. And there was like 10, 11 of them in play. Because there typically are a lot of cities in play if you want to get points. And suddenly it's like, oh, so you just gain 10, 11 income just like that. Ridiculous. Ridiculously powerful. And there are other similar cards where it's just you feel like I just had to pay through the ends of the earth to get this tiny little bonus that's not even that great yet. And yet you were literally able to just tiny little bit of power and suddenly you can get all this cool stuff. The balance is way off on that game and it just causes massive swings. And if you've been playing for 2 to 2.5 hours and then that happens to screw you over, it's pretty dire. Especially the ones that take stuff off you. You can kill each other's plants and rob them of their heat exchange. I mean, I was playing Helion in one game, the one that adds to heat, and in the first round I had 2 to 3 negative effects on me, just me. And one of them was purely because I was playing Helion. It's like, I've got to take heat off someone, you're Helion, I'll take it off you. Literally just because I chose a corp, I'm singled out. And recovering from like 3 negative effects hitting you on the first 2 rounds when you've already spent time and resources to get those effects, basically just meant I was going to fail that game. And funny enough, I came last because I couldn't recover anywhere near to get up to the level that everyone else was doing. And not to mention, it was impossible to get any cards that generated VP because everybody else got them in the drafts and I never saw them. Again, the drafting does not eliminate the luck factor in this. So it has irked me a bit recently, but I will still play it. I will still play it. 3 players, Prelude, you could get me to play this game. But I'm now like, you know what? If I know someone's going to play it and they say, how many have you got? 4? And just the basic, you know what? Nah, I'd rather just leave it be and just accept that it's probably not for me. But even then, at its current ranking in the BGG, I'm sorry. There are far better, shorter drafting games out there. Pick another one other than Terraforming Mars. My number 6 is, I would say it's overrated based on the amount of buzz it's getting lately. This is more a Facebook feed driven choice. And to be honest, if I was doing the top 10 games I hate, I think this one would actually appear pretty highly on the top 10 games I hate. Because not only do I think this is overrated, I also can't stand its guts. It's watery guts. It's long, flowing water into your electric power station guts. I'm sorry, Barrage is garbage. Barrage garbage is what it is. It's a horrible game. And this one is talked about loads. People are sticking pictures on it on Facebook and that and going, oh yeah, look at this amazing game as I get screwed over right royally. Oh, and here's the pieces to this game which were built from a Fisher-Price factory. I mean, it's like the component quality in it is dire. The art in it is pretty dire. I mean, it's like basically muted browns and greens everywhere, so it all looks horrible and dirty. There's like nothing interesting in it. Why do the diggers and the harvesters or whatever they're supposed to be? Why do they look like Space Invaders? It looks like basically while they're playing this game, and there's like a 4-hour wretched game, 3 to 4 hours of this like dire nonsense, and they're all. I've already sort of gone, all right, well this turn I can't really do much. All right, fine, I'll do that bit. Everyone else is taking forever on their turn, or I'm waiting for their like admin stuff to happen, and I'm busy there just going, little Space Invaders, do.
Increase speed, drop down, and reverse direction.
I'm having more fun playing around with Space Invader people, with like Space Invader wooden pieces, than I am playing the wretched game. The whole point of Barrage is you're building dams. Again, oh yeah, well done on the theme, guys, that's interesting. And generating electricity. Again, wow. But I remember playing my first game where I was playing Germany, and I barely did any electricity. I did like the bare minimum so I didn't suffer negative points. Other than that, I didn't care. And half of that was mainly because in the first round, I got screwed over to the point where I couldn't recover and do any decent electricity. That's how bad the pseudo knockout in this game is. But I basically said, fine, I'm just going to build everything on my board. I'm going to get every wooden piece off because some of it gives me VP generation. I won the game. Barely, but I won the game with just building my board. I ignored the core premise of the game, which is to generate electricity, and I still won. Because the others were in competition with each other, whereas I just carried on building. How does that work? Granted, I doubt I'd be able to repeat that again, but still, it happened. But even on subsequent plays, it's just so evil, this game. I mean, the first person to put anything down gets screwed over by the next player who basically goes, oh, you've put a dam down there. All right, well, I'm going to put this power station here and reroute all your stuff, and that means you can't have anything, and I get all the bonus. It's like, oh, great, that's nice. I put in all the effort to do this, and you basically come and smack me in the face. It's such an evil game. You can't play this as a pleasant, with a pleasant demeanour. You have to be an evil, vindictive git in order to play this game, because that's what you have to be to every other player to do well in this game. And I don't mind some of the mechanics in it. I mean, it's worker placement, that's fun. The wheel turning round, which as a concept is great. I mean, I like the idea that, oh yeah, you turn around and it takes a certain amount of time for things to build. Great, I like that. If only the wheel wasn't made out of paper mache and actually didn't bend and warp and have things slide underneath it. I mean, it was a horrible component, particularly in its Kickstarter form. But, that's what I didn't mind as much. But just the game taking forever, looks dull. I've got nothing nice to look at on the table because it all looks horrible. I've got, apart from playing with Space Invaders, I've got nothing I can barely do what I want to do half the time because somebody can just come in and smack you down. And even then, it's just basically turn after turn of, oh, I'll build a little bit here and then generate a bit of electricity, yay! And then I'll build a bit more there and then generate a bit of electricity, yay! It's just like, there's nothing inspiring or fun in this game. I really hate this game. This is a top 10 hated game for me. I really dislike it. And I didn't do a review on it because I hated it so much, but also I didn't have a copy of the game to really get to grips with, ins and outs during it, but I played it a few times and just thought, this is horrible, I really do not like this game. And yet people on the Eurogame Facebook list are just talking about it. It is constantly having photos put up and going, I love Barrage, oh, it's better than I thought. I love to sit here for 3.5 hours playing the same dreary nonsense. Oh god, the pictures aren't even good. Every picture that goes up a Barrage looks horrible because the game looks horrible. It's the most awful looking. It is one of the most awful looking Euro games out there. The artwork and component quality is garbage. It really is bad. And from Cranio Creations, who tend to do some half decent stuff. I've liked some of their games in the past, but this one just felt like such a drop in quality from what they normally do. But yeah, the heavy Eurogamers who want like 100 mechanics and don't mind their games taking 4 hours and obviously have a sadistic side to them because they want to punish the meek. But this was definitely not for me, and it's going up in the ranks on Board Game Geek. It's not quite, I don't think it's in the top 100 yet, but it's climbing, and people just keep talking about it, and I just wish they wouldn't. Number 5 is a bit of a cheat. I mean, I'm going to say one specific game, but I am slightly cheating with this one. I suppose you could call it a genre. I have talked about this recently in very dire straits, but I do see it talked about a lot because so many of these games are getting kickstarted recently or talked about, and each one looks exactly the same, and it's train games. Although if I'm going to pick a specific one that I see more often than not, I will pick Age of Steam. Age of Steam specifically. I mean, I see a few like Ride to Rails or whatever it's called, Ride the Rails and Irish Gauge and some of these new ones like Mini Express and that. But Age of Steam, I think, kind of started the craze off again, where the new version came out with Ian O'Toole's artwork on it, which normally I love Ian O'Toole's artwork, except in this, it doesn't even feel like it qualifies as artwork. It's just green hexes with tracks on it, whoopie-doo. And it's clear as day, but then it's a train game. You don't really have to show much apart from a few tracks and hexes. But these are definitely overrated. I mean, they are high up in the rankings. They are constantly buzzed about. Paul Grogan, I think, has made a living recently of doing nothing but train games on his playthroughs, and it's just like, people are nice, but my God, watching the game bores the living pants off me because I am literally watching, paint dry in terms of the experience of, look, train, track, move it, build another train, yay. It's like, oh God, horrible. But Age of Steam gets talked about a lot, and it looks bad. Like I say, just green hexes with a track, but again, it's just another train game. What is it about this train game that separates it from every 18XX, Chicago Express, Mini Express, Small Railroad Empires, Medium Railroad, Terror of Death, Platform 42, whatever? I mean, actually, if the game was called Terror Platform 42, I probably wouldn't mind it so much, but these are constantly being talked about, and I just do not get the buzz. Although, you could argue maybe this should be further down the list, because as much as they're getting talked about a lot, I do kind of think, and the reason that it's not higher, is that it's a die-hard group of players talking very loudly about it, because I still think this is quite a niche category. People like 18XX games, but it's not like it's a ton of people that love the things. And, these Age of Steams and Mini Expresses get talked about by the train game fans. When I see the comments on a lot of these posts, I do notice the same people coming up regularly talking about their love for the train games. But they're still rated highly, and they're still obviously rated highly enough that people on Kickstarter are literally just going, oh, how can we recycle this train mechanic? What if I just take that out and put that in? Yeah, it's a new train game. Kickstart me. I really just do not see the love for these. A bunch of hexes, bunch of trains, whoop-de-friggin-do, it's trains. Not going to belabor it too much longer though. If you want to see me go really off the rails on trains, check out my previous top 10 things I hate in gaming list and wait for my train game thing on there, because I went off on that one. But yeah, just Age of Steam is a specific one I'll put for this list, but just train games in general, overrated. Right, we are getting into the sacred cows here, but this one, when I first reviewed this one, I gave it a 6 out of 10. I thought this was above average. I thought this was okay. Above average game that I would play every now and again. It's dropped a bit now to about a 4 over time as I've played it more. Some of this has been driven by the fact that I have played it some more times and just gone, yeah, this isn't actually as fun as I would hope it to be. Why is it still taking ages to finish a game? Why is it still basically as overly punishing as possible? Why does the card system kind of dictate what you can do in the game rather than your own choices? But then recently, again, photos everywhere about this game. Like, everybody is constantly putting pictures up saying, oh, I love this game, and granted, for a game with a really dull theme and a bunch of dull colours on it, it does look gorgeous. Fair place to the artist. But, I'm sorry, Brass is overrated.
Kill him. Kill him now.
It's like, it's a boring theme already. Whoopie-doo, the Industrial Revolution age or whatever it was, and look, you can mine coal and iron and cotton. Ain't that fun? No. But another thing that's driven this, the Facebook people have gone mad with this. It's also highly rated. This whole thing with Brass Birmingham, though, is really starting to tick me off. Because and this isn't just with Brass, I will talk about some other games that I love, like Ticket to Ride and that, who are guilty, through the ages even, who are guilty of this problem, where as soon as another version of the game comes out, it gets its own listing on Board Game Geek, and therefore qualifies to have its ranked twice, as well as be eligible for awards twice. That is getting annoying. The fact that the recent awards for, I think, Dice Tower and I think last year's awards were basically like getting constantly threatened by Brass Birmingham really got on my nerves, because it's just brass with beer. And people are going to hate me for that comment because they will defend it to the high heels, but I am sorry. Just adding beer and changing the map layout does not in itself constitute a brand new game that deserves extra awards. Because, what did you think was going to happen? Did you honestly think that they were going to say, right, here is Brass Birmingham. Did you like Brass Lancashire? Well, here's Brass Birmingham. Did you think they were going to dislike it? How many people go around saying, oh, I don't like Lancashire, but Birmingham's amazing, or Lancashire was fantastic, but Birmingham was rubbish? Nobody's saying that. If you liked one, you're going to like the other, because the core gameplay is exactly the same. Here's your cards. Can you do what you like to do? No. Then do what the cards tell you and find some other way. Fine, I'll go here and build my coal. You've used up my coal, great, cool, I get money. Money, play poker chips. Literally the difference is beer is new. Fine, you've added beer. And you've changed a couple of the building types to something else. So I think like ports, and one other thing maybe got turned into manufacturing, and that weird middle one, I can't remember what they're called, the middle one, that frankly is not even worth building. But but the manufacturing buildings are rubbish. They're dire. I've not seen a single person win with manufacturing buildings. God knows my friends have tried. They have tried to win with manufacturing buildings, and every single time they have failed. They're just horrible buildings. They're not worth it. Coal, iron, beer. Choose one of those and go for it, because if I've played it and done that, I have usually either won or done well in the game by doing those. I don't even bother with the cotton mills. I'm like, no, coal, iron, and beer, because you need those stuff to do everything. So naturally, I want to be in control of the monopoly on that. That's how I play Brass. But, hey, everybody going mad with it. Ticket to Ride Europe added ferries and those little station things and changed the map from America to Europe. I don't believe that should have its own rating. It's Ticket to Ride. Just because I played Ticket to Ride America does not mean I will hate Ticket to Ride Europe, or vice versa. And it's not like I could say, well, Ticket to Ride won all these awards in 2004. In 2007, Ticket to Ride Europe will now win all these awards because it's the exact same game with an extra mechanic in it. No, it's Ticket to Ride. Standalone expansion. Fine, call it a standalone expansion, or in this case, a map pack. But, that's what Birmingham feels like. It's a map pack. It's a way to play the exact same game of Brass with beer, with a different map. It just feels like a standalone map pack. Except that in Ticket to Ride, it gives you all the plastic trains so that you can play it on its own with all the cards. In this, it gives you all the money poker chips and the new set of cards, so you can play this as a standalone expansion. That really got on my wick. And, that combined with the fact that I just don't think the game is as fun as people say. I gave it a chance when I first reviewed it. It wasn't great for me, but I thought, okay, I appreciate it more, but it's just gone down over time for more plays, and now I'm just like, why does everybody love this one so much? It's very punishing. Pseudo knockout is a big problem in Brass. If you start off bad, you will not recover. If your position isn't strong by the end of the first age or whatever it is, don't expect to suddenly pull it back in the second. It ain't gonna happen. And it just, it's so much buzz for this game, so highly ranked. Both of them, 2 massive rankings for Birmingham and Lancashire on the Board Game Geek ratings. I'm sorry, merge the 2 together because it is blatantly unfair otherwise. No. Very overrated. Don't necessarily hate the game, it's not enough to hate it, because I can still see some positive stuff in it, and I do want this artist to go on and do more things. Seriously, give me this artist for a thematic Euro game, and I will be loving it. But for this one, nah, I gave you a chance, Brass. It's just too overrated for my liking. My number 3. Oh, was this number 3 last year? I don't know. I have a feeling this was quite low on the list because I thought, it's okay, it's fine. But it's just still talked about to this day. Everybody still goes on and on and on about this game. And Kickstarter has just recently proved that literally all you have to do is just change a couple of mechanics, paint it white and blue, and it will become the most funded Kickstarter of all time. Yeah, it's still number 1, and it really didn't deserve to be number 1 when it first came out. It certainly still doesn't deserve to be number 1 now, Gloomhaven. Hey, this is going back to the whole Mage Knight thing. I'm playing a Euro puzzle game, not a thematic dungeon crawl game, because I am constantly taken out of the immersion by gaming the system with the enemy AI and the card system, which is not horrible, but it's not bad, but it's like the card system is my stamina, because apparently I can literally only go into 2 rooms before I suddenly keel over exhausted. I mean, what? That's what the first level is. 3 rooms. That's it. I can't do anything in 2 rooms before I get fully exhausted. What kind of adventurers are you? And with that in mind, that stupid little modifier deck, that's basically a custom die reforged into a pack of cards, that you can just sort of tweak every now and again. Don't like that mechanic. They tried to use it in Time Stories recently with the new Hadao project. Sucked in that, sucks in this. But with everybody still talking highly about, and to be fair, I'm seeing a lot of negative buzz on it as well. From people who have played the game like me and don't think it's all that. So it does have its fair share of haters. The problem is, it only takes a small amount of people to get massively behind the game and go 10, 10, 10, 10 all the way for it to get to like number 1 on Board Game Geek. Again, the Board Game Geek's rating system is completely broken. But, and like I say, I'm not ragging on games I don't like being high. There are some games, the Star Wars Rebellion is number, 4? Or something like that, in like number 4, number 6 in the BGG top 10. I love Star Wars Rebellion. I wouldn't put it in the top 10 games on Board Game Geek. God blimey, a 2-player, 3-hour game, on a theme that not everybody's into. It's like, no, I wouldn't put that in the top 10. But, it's up there somehow. And this one, just everybody's still banging on about it. Even though they'll never say all the content. They've paid £150, which is not cheap. For crying out loud, you expect it to have enough content to last you a lifetime for £150. I'd rather be able to pay £30 and get plenty of content for my liking there. But £150 gets you this giant crate that takes about an hour to set it up, about 3 hours to play each scenario, which is ridiculous, and then about another hour to put it back away because it's such a storage nightmare. And, the rules in it are not particularly overly clear. It was like, even Grogan struggled to explain a lot of it to us because there's quite a lot of little bits you've got to get the hang of. Certainly, I'll never play this multiplayer again. If I was to play it ever again, it would only be solo. But I don't want to because, again, it's too much of a puzzle game, not a thematic adventure game. And then we throw in Frosthaven. Literally, I didn't read up totally on it, so I'm sure it's got a bit more changes than simply just painting it white and blue. But you could not get out of the way fast enough before all the sheep from Gloomhaven basically marched over to Frosthaven and backed it instantly. Regardless of whether they'd even come close to finishing the original game. So what are you going to do with this new one? You're going to start that and just forget the old one? Come on, be a bit more frugal with your money, people. But, it just went on mad, and yes, it funded for God knows how much. If the game's going to cost you £150 minimum, it's going to fund pretty highly because it's £150 plus extras. That's pretty expensive. And then, granted, fair play, no exclusives as far as I was aware, and, they kept it pretty, concrete. This is what you're getting, what you paid for. But to basically only throw in one stretch goal at the end that wasn't even particularly interesting, that seemed a little bit cheeky to me. But, oh well, that's, let them do what they like. You can literally just call anything something Haven, paint it a different colour, and everybody will back it. So you pretty much can just, retire for life at this point. But, number 1 game of all time? No. And the only reason this is number 3, and not number 1, is because I can play this game. You could force me, you could pay me, you could force me to play this game solo for a little bit, And I would be certainly if somebody said, look, just try Frosthaven. Try Frosthaven when it comes out and see if it wins you over. I probably would try it. I would not be opposed to saying, you know what, let's ignore Gloomhaven, let's go into Frosthaven and try it. I'd not be opposed to that. But it's still the number one game. And I am just dreading next year's awards, because people have been ragging on Wingspan for winning a lot of the Golden Geek Awards this year. Granted, there was some it didn't deserve, but it deserved a few of them. But I'm just dreading the 2020 ones. I guarantee you, hold it to this day, the 2020 awards is going to be Frosthaven in every single category. Even the ones where it doesn't deserve it. And I bet you there won't be anywhere near much as complaining. Because people complained about Wingspan being innovative. I don't think it's innovative in the slightest. Even I was a bit like, come on. But I bet you Frosthaven's going to come into innovative, and yet it's going to have nothing in it that's any different from most other games you've seen. And yet I bet you there will be no complaining, because there will be more fans of that than there will be Wingspan. Yeah, even then I would still prefer to play Wingspan. So, God knows what will happen in that day, but I'm calling it now. It's going to be a Frosthaven-dominated awards, regardless of whether the game's any good or not. It will just automatically get shoved up there. And I can't wait for this to be the number one game on Board Game Geek, with Gloomhaven as number 2. Yeah, £150 crate. Hey, no, sorry, love it if you like. As I say, as I've been saying all this list, if you love these games, by all means ignore what I'm saying and just play and love them, because that is your decision, not mine. But yeah, Overrated, number 3. Alright, my number 2. Oh boy, am I going to survive this? Number 2. This is kind of apt, because remember when I was mentioning that I was really getting into the Sacred Cows? Yeah, this is Sacred Cow in more than one way. It was my number 2 last time. It's still my number 2. It still would be in my top 5 hated games of all time. I despise this game and everything it stands for. I don't care if you bring out an expansion to it, which apparently you had to do to balance the path to victory in it. And I don't care if you can come up with 100 different ways to justify why there's 20 million ways to win this game. Fair play. You love the game, then love it. Don't worry about it. But I will never understand the love for Great Western Trail. For me, it is a horrible game. I don't like it at all. This whole thing of ring the roses around this bloody western track, where, you're putting the buildings on that aren't that interesting, but at least it's randomized, so I guess that's a positive. But then you build up a deck building element of chaos. And again, I mentioned this on the previous list, just jamming in deck building into this game when it didn't deserve to be there. Could have been a nice simple tableau builder, and you just manage your tableau of cows. But no, appease all the Eurogamers. I need to make this as overly convoluted as possible. Let's shove deck building in here. And then you get to the city, and then it's like 2 things wrong with it. Firstly, Kansas, it gives you negative points. Yet apparently, according to a lot of the people who play this game religiously, going there and selling to Kansas early is actually a good way to win the game. It's counterintuitive to go to a place that loses you points to then win the game on points. That's just weird. And on top of that, you get there and it's like, I've got my prize rump steak here. And oh, where's he gone? And then behind a tree somewhere, dressed in a ninja costume, is your cow. That's literally there, sort of like, sitting there like more Muttley. Like, hide away from you. Just because when you were deck building, you just happened to draw it at the wrong time. Ay. It's like, why was it in this game? But, I mean, art-wise, it's okay. It's not bad, but it's not exactly great either. The theme is lost. I don't feel like I'm in the Wild West with this. Whoopee, you flip over a token that happens to kill some Indians, apparently. And, you're collecting cows and selling them. So is this a farming game then, rather than a Great Western game? It's like, you're not dueling each other. You're not really... killing outlaws and that on a regular basis, and you're playing ring the ring around this weird thing which has you go from the start to the end and then magically teleport back to the start to then do it again somehow faster than everybody else, as if everybody else is stuck in a time loop. And it just really is weird. The immersion is just killed instantly. And that's assuming you haven't lost your rag with this game, because in order to manage your player board, you have to mess around with those stupid little brown discs or whatever that Alexander Pfister's obsessed with. They annoy me in Maracaibo, they ignore me in this one as well. Seriously, recess boards if you're going to do junk like that. Recess your boards. Don't make us pay extra for inlays or something. And from what I heard, I mean, yes, people will argue to death about the amount of paths to victory, but let's just assume we've got the basic 3 of cows, trains, and buildings, right? So those 3, and you might have some derivative of each one. Fair enough, that's for you. But the cows, everybody goes for. Everybody goes for the cows, and they win a lot. But that's not necessarily saying it's the most powerful one, but it's the easiest one to do well with. It's the one that comes more intuitively to players. So it gets taken a lot. The trains, usually the next one. Okay, right, it was called Great Western Trail. There's a train track there. I'll level up on the trains, and that does cool stuff for you as well. So that tends to be the second most. People can win with buildings. I can't. I win with cows and trains when I've played this game, not buildings. But the buildings are a bit like the, what's the game I was talking about earlier that had this similar thing? The Lorenzo the Magnifico with the yellow cards. This can be won, but it requires the stars to align, because it's not just enough to just build every building you have. You need to balance it with other things, as well as have the buildings in a certain way on the board to justify why you've built it and when you build them. So there's a lot more to think about with it. Fair enough, it's got strategic possibilities, but if you've got to go through all that effort to make buildings work, then screw it. Why don't I just go for cows? I just got to build my deck and trim it. Great, there you go, cow, done. It's a lot easier to approach that. Now, the recent one was called Ride to the Rails or something. I don't know, the expansion to this apparently has now made trains and buildings more viable. Great, it took an expansion to balance your game. Great, that's a good one. But I don't like this one, and I think it's in the top 10. I think it's number 10 at the moment. Everybody talks about it. The amount of people where they've posted on saying, I'm trying to decide whether to get Great Western Trail or not, or Great Western Trail or this game. And the amount of people who just come on instantly and go, GWT, GWT, GWT. And it's like, I'm a small, quiet voice in the midst of a ton of people trying to tell the person maybe you should consider other games. And frankly, this is a problem. I see the people give the description of what type of games they like, and then they mention the choices, and people just flood them with GWT, completely ignoring the fact that they're probably not suited to this game because of the description they've given. But they just think they've got to unload GWT on everybody, therefore it doesn't matter what you're into. It's like, oh, I'm used to just playing Catan, and I quite like Sushi Go and Great Western Trail. It's like, my guys and friends that we play Munchkin quite often, Great Western Trail. It's like, everybody just slaps it on them without a care in the world as to whether it will suit them right. And not everybody loves this game. It's popular. Oh God, it's popular, but not everybody likes it, and I'm certainly not a fan of it. I've played it many enough times before you try to use that argument. I have played it, I can't remember the number, but it's more than a few. It's easily at least 6 or 7 times I've played this game in my life. I know some of you have played this like 80 to 100 times. Fair play, you found a game that you can play 100 times with the same people. Go ahead and do it, at least you're having fun. But, I just could not get into this. The expansion ain't going to bring me back. Nothing's going to bring me to like this game. I just cannot stand it. And there's only one game that I can rag on more than this one. And you've guessed it. Do I really need an introduction to this one? Number 1 last time, number 1 this time. I mean, I did not look at the previous top 10 list to come up with this one. I completely thought, right, recently, what am I seeing out there? What are the ratings like, rankings like? Based on current information, what's more overrated? And my 1 and 2 just ended up the same because of what I'm seeing. People still go on and on and on about this game. And it's just boring. And, well, that's pretty much all I need to say about it. It's boring, but it is boring with capital letters and 20 exclamation marks. It is so boring. Concordi boringer. It's Concordia. It's the one redeeming feature I can say about it is that the colour looked pretty on the board. The maps. Okay, great. Oh, but you can have lots of different maps with this game. Who cares? What do you do on the map? You basically go around and build little huts or whatever and produce brick and salt and, well, no, salt was an expansion apparently. That was like a revolution. But like cloth and stone and corn or whatever, and you do that on every single map without any changes. It's literally just the layout of the map. I don't even know if there's any extra rules on some of those maps. It's a new layout, kind of like the way Power Grid I think did it. And on top of that, you've got the card system, which granted is not really deck building, but again, the cards, just don't. They're not interesting in terms of powers. It's just a convoluted way to do actions rather than being able to choose what you want to do. You have to mess around with the cards. But then with that, the cards are then geared into VP generation, of which 2 of them are worth going for. The rest of them are dire. You know, if you're not winning this game by taking a lot of the cards that get you all over the map or allow you to build all your buildings or whatever, then something is going wrong with your play, mate, because if somebody beat you trying to focus on one type of resource building or with the, like, putting the little dudes around the map, someone beat you with that, you played your game wrong. Because I've never seen anybody win with that. Anytime I've seen it, somebody has usually munchkin one of those 2, and that's including myself. But even forgetting like past the victory in that, the fact that somebody could just buy your VP card and take you out of the game because it's like, oh, I was focusing on that, but everyone's bought my cards, so well, I'm not scoring points for much this game. Oh well, this is fun. I'll sit here for another 90 minutes. You know, it's people claim it's like a 45-minute game. Since when? You know, 2 players maybe on a tiny map, but no, sorry. When I've played this game, when I've seen this game played, it's usually on for at least 90 minutes, and that's 90 minutes too long. In fact, it's 95 minutes too long because the 5 minutes deciding what we're going to do and play is like, so bad. Do not like this game at all, and yet it's still high on Board Game Geek, somewhere in the top 20, I believe, top 25 at the worst. But everybody, pictures everywhere of this game of everybody's love for it. It's like, I finally got introduced to Concordia and I love it to bits because apparently I have not played any more thematic Euro game in existence. It's not, you know, you love it, great, play it, have fun, don't worry about why ramblings, but oh, I hate Concordia so much. It's down to the point where friends of mine at my club jokingly try to get me into a game of it. You know, it's now practically its own meme that I hate Concordia this much. You know, they'll sort of go and it's like, you'll love this one, Luke. You know, you've heard of it, haven't you? Concordia, and it's like, it's like devil like rage face goes on. It's like something out of a Looney Tunes cartoon or sorry, where like the character looks normal and then you mention the trigger word and suddenly it's like flames and like devil horn heads or something. It's like, you what? It's very much like that. Kind of like a Ren and Stimpy cartoon, I guess. Everybody just on and on about Concordia. Cover looked bad, regardless of whether it was the original zombie lady one or the ghoulish lady one. Doesn't matter, they both look horrible. Literally the only thing that's nice about it is it's got the map has got colour segments and it looks colourful on the table, but it just feels like a beige Euro to play. It's got the theme of a beige Euro, trading in the Mediterranean, if you can call it trading. You know, plonk a hut down and make a resource and get some money and plonk another building down and get a resource and plonk another building down. You know, when are we doing any actual trading? I don't know. Don't like this game. Really overrated. No one's going to convince me otherwise of this one. I am not playing this game ever. I don't care what team variant you shoved in or whatever. And I've seen the team variant being played, and it still takes forever. In fact, I think the team variant takes longer to play than the normal version. God blimey, that would be my hell. I mean, don't be my partner in Concordia. I promise you, I would have resigned within turn 1, and then you're on your own, mate. So that's the best way it's going to happen. So yeah. Top 10 overrated games. It was fun to do last time. It was fun to do this time. As much as I'm rambling and raving, it's nice to get it off your chest, and now I can relax a little bit and maybe go for a run, you know. But these games, as I've mentioned, I don't like them. If you like them, then go ahead, like them, please. Just, you know, enjoy my ramblings, enjoy my rants, be entertained. But don't feel that I am trying to change your way of thinking on these games. These are your games that you love. If this is like your top 10 favourite games list, then by all means, have a different taste to me. And play these 10 games with all the people you can. Show them to other people who will like them as well. And have fun. That's the way it should be in this hobby. Not just my way of thinking. It should be everybody's way of thinking. That's how it should work. This is just, like I say, I'd love to see some other content creators do their own top 10 overrated games list, and I would love to watch them and see what they've done. And I've seen some of them. A couple have done them. I think Board Game Ramblings, did one recently that was overrated games. Either that or it was top 10 games I didn't like. It was one of the two. And I had fun watching that one. Certainly didn't agree with half the choices, but certainly I enjoyed watching it, because we get a lot of times where people talk about everything they love. And you should. We should be more positive than negative. But Sometimes it's great to be able to have people just to say, you know what, I just need to let my hair down and, well, in this case, ridiculous, but, just to say, you know what, I just need to talk about 10 games I really don't like, and I want to know why I don't like them. So if you love these games, great. I know loads of people love these games. What I would kind of like to know in the comments is, if you don't like these games either, if you think they're overrated, why do you think they're overrated? Because your reasons could be very different from mine. If you love these games, fine. You love these games, but I've already heard all the reasons why people love these games. I mean, they're popular for a reason. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Now, before my screen suddenly goes off, I did mention I had some honourable mentions. These were on the shortlist. Crystal Palace, horrible game. Like horrible production quality, horrible artwork, evil vindictive game. You are just outright screwing everybody else. Every turn you feel like you can't do what you want to do. It's highly restrictive. It is a table hog. It is analysis paralysis inducing like you wouldn't believe. Overly long. Do not like this game at all. Reason it's not on this list is because I don't hear it talked about that much. The ones who love it do certainly go up and go, oh yeah, I love this game, it's amazing, but it felt like that was a very die-hard niche group that loved this game. I've played this with friends of mine who are into these, like, the train games and like the dry, heavy Euros. They would love Great Western Trail and that. They didn't like Crystal Palace. If they didn't like Crystal Palace, then I'm not expecting that it's a massive following for it. So I figured on the hate games list, definitely. Check out my written review for what I don't like about it. But on the overrated games list, I didn't think it was rated highly enough. Pipeline, similar. Did not enjoy this game, but I don't hear it talked about much anymore. It got a bit of buzz when it first came out, but lately I've just not seen anybody mention this game. I'm feeling this was a bit of a flash in the pan. People have brought it out and gone, oh yeah, this is a great game, I love it, and I have not heard a peep of it since. It's like nobody's put it on Facebook, because frankly there's not a lot to look at. But this game with a boring theme where you just take little oil and turn it into big oil with this bait and switch Carcassonne pipe mechanic, which I thought was going to get me interested in the game, but it turned out it was such a minor thing, and a stupid rule about, oh, you want to take a technology? Well, do a technology. Nobody else can take one from that list, and you get to disregard another list. Excuse me? If I'm playing this game again, we are house ruling that is not in effect, because that is a stupid rule. But, I don't know. It's not talked about widely enough. I don't think it's rated highly enough. I think it's a small group that are diehard fans of this, so Pipeline wouldn't make the list. Voyages of Marco Polo and Orleans. Both of these I think were on the list last time, and I just don't see them talked about as much anymore. I mean, they're still popular. I still think they're bad. Well, actually, no. Correction. I think Voyages of Marco Polo is bad. Orleans is just dull. It's bag building. I like bag building, but what do? You take out tokens, put them on the spot, and then level up 5 different tracks. Yay! Great. It's got a beige theme, and it feels like a beige bag builder. But, it was talked about more highly in the past. I don't really hear a lot of people mention it now. And the same goes for Voyages of Marco Polo. We've had a fair few dice games out, but I hear more people talk about Grand Austria Hotel than I do Voyages of Marco Polo, which is kind of interesting. I've seen more people buy Maiden Frontiers recently, which I think is the better of them by far. And, I just haven't really seen Marco Polo turn up as much in late conversation. So, as much as it's ranked highly, I figured, you know what? This one would make the teens maybe, but not the top 10, not compared to some of these others. And the last one was technically a game I will play. But I rated it a bit too high, I think, when I reviewed it, because my rating has gone down a point or two since then. But people are not only loving this game, but they want to rank it high, and they wanted to say it was their top game of 2019. No way! Okay, 2019 was not exactly the best year ever, but there were a lot better games than Paladins of the West Kingdom. It's fine, but you've only got 3 ways you can play it, because you have to do the seesaw action with the the actions you take. And if you don't do the seesaw action, you will lose. You won't be able to keep up the momentum. So you've basically got 3 different combos of ways that you can play the game, of whether, like red up blue gives you blue, which then allows you to level up black, and stuff like that. There's only really 3 ways it works. And once you've done them, that's kind of it. It's very dry. The theme is non-existent, I would much rather play Architects of the West Kingdom, which is far better. That is a brilliant worker placement game. But this one just felt good at first. And then I played it more and I just started to see the cracks. And I played it solo, And I found that kind of boring as well. You know, it just felt like I've got to squeeze everything into this box Tetris style and then set up a bucket load of stuff here. And it just didn't seem worth it. Maybe I would play this on Tabletop Simulator or something, so that the setup's already done. But having to go through all that for a very dry game that's very long, very like, you know, oh God, I'm waiting for my turn, come on, hurry up, you know, stuff like that. It just didn't feel like, I feel like people saying it was the best of 2019. It's kind of like, okay, what are you smoking? Because that's like, there's a lot of better stuff in 2019. But, you know, I didn't think it was high enough to make the list because I would still play it, whereas I wouldn't play any of these other 10, with the slight exception, I guess, of Terraforming Mars. Again, you have to have the very specific setup. So, yeah, oh well. Like I say, make of this what you will. I had fun doing it. This one needed an update, and people were looking forward to this list anyway. So I'm expecting quite a bit of a mix of opinion here. But, you know, people asked for it for a while. You know, was I going to update this list? And I figured I'd give it a little bit longer. But after doing the top 10 things I hate in gaming, I figured the top 10 overrated games would follow nicely for it. And it'll be interesting to see if this one gets more views than the previous one. I think the previous one got about 27,000 views or so. Be cool to see if this one can eclipse it, and if so, why. But I don't know, maybe the blog's just grown in that time. But that's 2 negative top 10 lists. I promise you, the next couple will be positive. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've already done Essential. I'm thinking maybe a deck builders one. I'm thinking maybe a top 10 with WoW appeal, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to rank those ones because that's very subjective. And failing that, I'll take other ideas, I guess, you know, because there are other ones I'm thinking of. What else have I got on here? Designers. I don't know if that would work. Top 10 deck builders might be a good one, though, because there's a lot of deck builders I like that are pure deck builders, might be quite cool. But, you know, we'll see. I'm open to suggestions, people, so feel free to put them in the comments. I'll certainly consider them, but obviously I've got to work it around the timetable. But yeah, hope you've enjoyed these 2 lists. Hope you've enjoyed me rambling on this one. I'm off. Take care. See you soon. And remember, as always, I cannot stress this motto enough for this list. It's only a game. Take care, stay safe, and entertain yourselves however you want.